was cheering. Both sides. We created agencies to make sure that it would stay strong and be viable. That program was called the Community Redevelopment Act. We created Fannie and Freddie. You know, everyone continued to support it. We took the Glass-Steagall Act and we got rid of it, which blurred the lines between commercial banks and investment banks. And then 30 years later, we had an incredible meltdown. But yet at the beginning, everyone said how great the Community Reinvestment Act was going to be because every American would have the right to own a home. So I don't know what could end up happening, but I know this, that if we don't do something with reforming these programs, it will be a huge fiscal crisis, and it will be a healthcare crisis for the United States of America and the citizens.
Has concerns regarding questionable wars, bloated military budgets, wasteful military spending, comment, deaths, and injuries, torture. His question is, do you propose to substantially cut military spending?
Well, you know, you're looking at a guy who has found 3 programs that total up to, I think about, close to 200 some odd, no, more than about $300 or $400 million of spending of the DOD, 3 programs we found wasteful spending. Now, I got to tell you something. I cannot look at the men and women, my brothers and sisters, and to include my nephew, and send them into battle and not have them properly trained, equipped, and ready to conduct operations. Why do you think the Navy SEALs were so ready and prepared to conduct the operations that they did? We have the best trained, best equipped military, but we cannot turn our backs on it. One of the things that is really concerning to me is a lot of people on Capitol Hill think that now that you killed Osama bin Laden, that's the end of it. That's a very dangerous premise to believe. Now, as I said, I do believe that we have to get away from this thing called nation building. I do believe that we need to be telling the defense military industry what the warfighter needs and not them telling us what they want to produce. That's very important. And once again, when people talk about GE, how many people recognize the fact that GE just last week circumvented the defense procurement system by saying that they would fund this alternate engine themselves, which means that somewhere down the line, we're going to have 2 different engine systems for the Joint Strike Fighter, the F-35, because GE didn't want to play by the rules. And that's the type of thing that should not happen. And I will tell you, the CEO of GE Aviation came to my office, and I told him that I was not going to support them having that alternate engine. Those are the type of things that we have to be able to do to prevent that military industry complex from being successful in telling the military what they want them to have. But remember this, in 1990, and this is an incredible statistic, in 1990, the United States military had 546 naval war vessels. Today, the United States Navy has 283 naval war vessels. How much of the mass of this earth is water? The fact that we are dealing with people called pirates in the 21st century is absolutely reprehensible. If we don't understand that the important part of a nation's ability to project its power is through a naval force, a capable and strong naval force. Remember what I told you, 8 to 10 years, the largest blue water navy the world has ever known will be flying on the Chinese flag. That's right. Now you think about the threats to commerce in the sea lanes. That is something that will threaten us as we seek to produce, manufacture, and export our goods and services.
Well, they're manufacturing. They're the ones who are shipping. Private things are military.
No, you don't want to privatize the military.
George Ellis of Boca Raton military spending. With approximately 40% of the Department of Defense's baseline budget allocated to private entities, and in light of numerous gross violations of those contracts, how are you going to ensure that these companies are reporting properly and being held accountable and protect taxpayers from billions of dollars in fraudulent spending?
And I can take care of that very simple, because you're looking at a guy who used to be a DOD contractor. And I know the procurement system, and I know the right questions to ask, and I know, who is pulling the wool over the Department of Defense eyes. And that's important, that we get people up there in the House of Representatives that have real-world experience, that have been out there dealing with these things, and you get them on the Armed Services Committee, so that, you don't have unfair competition. You don't have people that are coming out overselling their capability. You understand exactly what they are able to produce. And guess what? A lot of these guys you can make the phone calls to because you know them, and you can find out about some of these different agencies and entities. But I will tell you this, as we cut down our military so much, we talk about men and women that are on 5th and 6th times over combat zones, and they're stretched very thin. So one of the things that they have looked at in the Department of Defense is where can you find recently retired individuals or other type of individuals that can go in and help and augment our military. But then that comes back to what I just said. If you get away from a nation-building type of warfare, you don't have to have that stress and strain of the military. You don't have to depend too much on the Department of Defense contractors. We have to get to the point where what we're looking at is what we call a dwell time extension. Where we have 1 year that you're in a combat zone, and you should have 2 years, maybe 2.5 years not being in the zone. And for our men and women who are in the National Guard and Reserves, if you have 1 year that you have served, then we're talking about having maybe up to 4 years or 5 years that you're not having to go back over to those combat zones to do those type of things. Now what that's going to require? That's going to require something that we have not done in quite some time, is to really sit down and look at all the different areas of operation, the areas of responsibility, and start to develop a military capability that can contend with these different areas of responsibility. I'll give you a great case in point. We don't have a presence in Latin America. But yet in Latin America, you have Iran, you have Hezbollah, you have various other bad actors. Hugo Chavez is not exactly our friend. Daniel Ortega in Central America is not exactly our friend. And the Mexican drug cartels are in cahoots with a lot of these Islamic terrorist organizations. But we stretched our military so thin that we don't have a capability down there. We have a very soft underbelly. See, with the collapse of the Soviet Union, we missed a great opportunity. We missed an opportunity to sit back and say, what does the future look like? And how do we reorganize this military to be successful on what would be the future battlefield? We did not do that. What we did, we made the military the bill payer. And I speak from experience. When I was a paratrooper at Fort Bragg, we could not afford toilet paper for the barracks. When we could not afford to have a young man go out there and qualify on his weapon if he was having some problems, we got to the point where we just say, son, we're out of ammunition. We can put you on the simulator and we can try to, get you qualified. When you have tanks, and we don't have the Class 3, the POL, the fuel for the tank, so they have to do tank tactics in golf carts. That's what we did for our military. But it comes back to having people that are in Washington, D.C., that have been on the battlefield, that can reshape our military, develop the right type of strategic policies, not tactical level, but strategic policies, to make sure that the most important thing that we have to do at the federal government level is keep you safe. If we fail to keep you safe, I don't care how much money you're making. A lot of people made money when those World Trade Towers came down. If we don't keep you safe, it does not make a hill of beans. And that's
Christopher Emery of Riviera Beach, how do you feel about the treatment of Gulf War veterans and the possible mishandling of their claims?
Well, speaking as a Gulf War veteran, I'm very fortunate that I did not have some of those issues, but we've got to do better with all of our veterans. One of the things that you have to recognize right now is a lot of the injuries that our men and women are suffering in Iraq or Afghanistan. 10 years ago, those would have been